So I disappeared for about 3 months. I know, you might have missed me, but even if you didn't, I wanted to let you know where I was, what I've been doing, and it does involve AI and genealogy. So I spent about 1,000 hours going really deep into how AI could work to solve some of my stickiest family history problems, genealogy research, and I just want to show you what I've been working on, what I discovered, and what I found, because I think you'll find it cool. And I also just want to fill you in, obviously on what I've been doing. So let's first just talk about AI and how it can be used. Now, most people think of AI as a chatbot. It's just something to talk to, but I discovered it actually has several different purposes. So here they are. The first purpose for me for AI is as a thinking partner. I use it to brainstorm ideas, to come up with new research paths, to basically get myself unstuck from my research. I also use it as a transcriber. So I have a ton of documents, not proud of this, that I have not transcribed. It's known in professional genealogy, the first thing you should do with any document is completely transcribe it. It forces you, as the researcher, to read it completely from top to bottom, side to side, every single field, and not make assumptions. I wasn't doing that. So having AI do some transcription has been great, and I'll show you what it did with a federal court case in this video. The other thing I use the AI for is a research partner. Now, by research partner, I don't mean it went out and found records for me. What it did do was give me an exact list of the records that could exist in the time and place that I was looking, which was literally like 90% of the battle. And then the last thing I used AI for, and this has been just a huge game changer for me, is a writing partner. So having AI help me with outlines, having it help me with final polishes, actually helping me draft it 3 different ways, something that I want to say, so I can see all my options, I mean, how am I supposed to know what something is going to look like unless I can see a vision of it? And then I can write it myself, which is huge. So that is my 1,000 hours that I spent with AI. All right. And I made myself smaller here so you can actually see, but what the power of AI is in, connecting all of these different modes to me. I get to have my own different AI brains, so to speak, to help me with these research problems. I think the biggest challenge for us as genealogy researchers, family historians, is really not recognizing how tough our job is. I mean, we know it's hard, but really we've got to do historical context, legal context, social context, know where all the records are, how to actually get the words off the page and transcribe them. I mean, we're doing a ton of work here. And having AI to help has been a real game changer. So let me show you with this one example. This was a federal court case that my ancestor was involved in. He was the defendant. It always makes it more interesting. And let me just walk you through it. All right, here is my record for the court case. This involves my Robinson Robert Curry. He actually was sued along with a William G. Bell by the Weed Sewing Machine Company. This case started in the 1870s and continued until 1881. Robinson died in 1883, so he left a little bit of a disaster in his wake for his wife and surviving children. But this is what the document actually looked like. So yes, this is a federal court record from the 1870s. It's all handwritten. It's all on lined paper. It's loose papers. And I obtained this from the National Archives, from the local Philadelphia branch, because this involved the Western District of PA. And how I found out that Robinson was sued is from our good friend, the newspaper, that he had appeared in court in Pittsburgh, and it made me curious, what was he in court for federal court? So this was it. Now, the first thing I did with this case is the transcription part. So I did not transcribe it when I got it several years ago, and I really needed a transcribe to really understand what was going on with it. So I just used this simple prompt in Google Gemini, which I'm finding right now is the best transcriptionist. And this is the pro version, Gemini Pro. I have the paid account. 2.5 is the current version. So I just told it to transcribe this document exactly as written, preserving the original spelling, punctuation, and line breaks. I asked for brackets for anything unclear, a question mark if the word was ineligible, and put a bar to indicate a line break at the end of the text. I wanted the line break so that I could tell and compare line for line that AI had done a great job at this, and it really did. And I uploaded these one at a time, all in the same chat to Gemini. I really, really feel like it did a phenomenal job. Now, once I had that transcription, I then had an order to everything that happened. You know, looking at those scraps of paper, they're not really scraps. I mean, they were full-size pieces of paper, but I really didn't understand what I was looking at. I read it through. Of course, I'm looking for Robinson's parents. You know, is there mentions of any other Currys in this file? There weren't, but there was this... But there was information in terms of how Robinson was supporting his family, right, during this time. So that was helpful to know. And then, of course, this William G. Bell, which is what is the relation between these two men. So my first thing, though, was to look at what was this weed sewing machine company. I've never heard of it. I've heard of Singer. I've heard of Bernina. I've heard of Viking. You know, those are the sewing machine companies that exist now. But I have to go back over 100 years and figure out the whole sewing machine business, right? So this is hard, and luckily I have AI to help. So the next thing I did is I used Perplexity, that is a AI-enabled search engine, and I used the deep research function in Perplexity. I wanted to know more than just what weed sewing machine company was. I could get that from Wikipedia. So what I got from Perplexity is this complete history in detail of exactly everything with Weed Sewing Machine Company. Now, I don't need this to write my family history, but I do need to understand contextually, again, what was the sewing machine business and why was my ancestor being sued by one? I know this sounds silly, but really, I mean, it's odd, right? And what I found out in here is this distribution and marketing. So the company employed a network of sales agents across the United States and has these company records, you know, of this. And of course I want to know, are there records of my ancestor for this? But my ancestor was an agent for this sewing machine company. So I never knew that this was a thing. And I did ask Perplexity to see if the records still existed. So the Smithsonian apparently has some records of the Weed Sewing Machine Company. Now, they were based in Connecticut, and my ancestor was in rural Pennsylvania. So how they ended up in D.C., who knows? Hartford Public Library has some things of this in the Philadelphia region. Oh, there might be something there. And look, things are spread out all over, which we know this as genealogists. Sometimes the things that we want are just not online and they're somewhere. So if I wanted to pursue this, I feel a road trip to Connecticut coming in my in my future. So far I've used AI for my transcriber, which it did very well. And I used it for some research for the Weed Sewing Machine Company. I think this is really great, but I have a lot of thinking that I need to do about this. Like, how are these connected? How do I understand this legal case? And this is where I just use ChatGPT. So maybe there's a better tool for it, but I find ChatGPT to be great at explaining things to me. It breaks it down very simply. So all I did was upload the transcription here, and then I just told it what it was, that it was a transcription for a federal court case, who it involved and where, and then I wanted a timeline of events of the case and a listing of the people involved and an understanding of the legal case. Most importantly, I told it I'm not a lawyer and I need it in plain English. So it could talk to me in legalese, but I'm not going to understand it. The thing I was most curious about, was this common at the time? I mean, for all I know, there were thousands of people sewed by Weed Sewing Machine Company. I don't know. I mean, maybe my ancestor's not unique. It's unique to me, but that doesn't mean it's unique in the context of the time. And then that I included a summary with the transcript. You can ignore it. And I put that in because after I did this complete transcript with Gemini, I asked it if it could summarize it for me. You can see it's thinking in here. So let me just throw it back. Okay, I just typed in, after I did the whole transcript, I said, now can you summarize this entire court case, please, and provide a timeline of events? And Gemini did that. So by going back to ChatGPT, the cleaner way to do it would just be to give it the transcript, but I wanted its interpretation. So now I'm using 2 AI brains on one problem, and hopefully my own brain too. But it went through and did this. So look how pretty this is. The timeline of events right here in this nice table, all with the dates exactly explained. And this makes sense of all those pieces of paper, right? And then the key people involved right here, the attorneys and everything, and then the plain English. This was my most exciting discovery, that the company sold machines on commission to local agents, that he was supposed to remit payments for the machines and return unsold ones. The company's record showed that he owed nearly $1,000 and that the William G. Bell had guaranteed Curry's performance in the sales. Right there. So I did do some further research with land maps and found out William Bell was a neighbor, but that doesn't really explain why he would have guaranteed Curry's sales. I do think there's more of a connection between those two for me to still figure out. So here's the legal journey: arbitration, a jury trial, federal removal, federal delays, and finally the settlement in 1881. So this went on for a long time. I mean, it's like, what, 7 years? No, 5 years, sorry, going on. That's a long time. It's a lot of trips to Pittsburgh. That he finally ended up paying $600, and that this was very common, that local salesmen were sold sewing machines on credit, that they were guaranteed with sureties, and that, these cases were complicated because people claimed accounting errors, obviously across state lines, so that would make it federal, not local. And so, ChatGPT always with this helpful, would you like a visual timeline or a family business connection map? And I didn't do that because I want to use my own brain on this. But I thought it was just super interesting and a great way to break that down and finally understand a set of documents that I had. So I used AI as that thinking partner, and I think it did really well. So my last thing was to use AI as a writing partner. Could it write this up and make it interesting family history? So let me show you what I did. So for this, I actually decided to write this from the perspective of Robinson's wife. Now, that sounds a little a roundabout, but I was fascinated thinking about her as a stay-at-home mother, taking care of this entire house, while Robinson's out doing his sewing machine sales, and they also farmed a bit. I know he had a cow, and filed taxes as a farmer. What her life was like in this. So I took historical context that Perplexity got for me of Clearfield County. I took the court case, I took the summary, and then I wrote this. And then I had people actually give me feedback on this. These people are people in my Chronicle makers community, where we write and chronicle the stories of our ancestors. And yeah, it was absolutely fascinating figuring out what Nancy would have gone through, what Robinson's intersection, impact was with her. And then I put here that this was assembled by Google Gemini Pro, etc. So this was really interesting, at least for me, to see it written in this form. And for me, as the family historian, I can go through and change this, adjust it, make it sound more like me. I thought it did a pretty good job, honestly, for a first pass. And it doesn't sound like as much like AI as ChatGPT does a lot of times. So that's what I've been doing with AI and genealogy. I hope you enjoyed that little behind the scenes preview. I plan to do a lot more of these. Keep it casual, have you see what's happening in my world and how you can use it for yourself. So if you like this, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to see you be a subscriber, and check the description for some links to my email newsletter where you can get this in print and a whole lot more.